So I've been watching just a ton of these my MS story videos, and it's been hard for me, but I'm going to try to make my own. This is, I have to say, about the third take on this, just because it's just hard to talk about. But I'm going to do it just because these my MS story videos are just so awesome. I've been watching so many of them by different people out there, and there's so many things I connect with, and then also things I've just never even heard of, and that just kind of blows me away. So anyway, here's my MS story. I am 45 years old, and I've had MS for about 17 years, at least symptoms of MS for about 17 years. But I've known that I've had MS for 3 months now. So it's all pretty fresh in terms of knowing that I have MS, but the experience is just like a long-standing thing through almost 2 decades, 17 years of my life. So here's how that happened. I started having pretty minor kind of peripheral numbness and tingling in my late 20s. My feet went numb one time for 2-3 months, and I just kind of thought it was weird, talk to people. My butt went numb for a couple months. I thought it was because I was sitting too much or something. You know, people's butts go numb. Anyway, it was about 10 years ago that I first saw a doctor for these things when my arm went numb. And I was thinking, well, my arm, you know, that's a little more serious. So I went and checked that out, and the doctor thought I had muscle spasms and gave me some acupressure stuff to do, and that was that. And again, it was a few more years after that, 5 years after that, that I got double vision. And that's when it just got kind of serious. You know, a lot of MS symptoms start with eye problems, and I've seen that in a lot of videos and read that in the literature and whatnot. So I got double vision. It was a partial palsy of the 5th cranial nerve, which basically leads to diplopia or double vision on one side. So my right eye, this eye, just couldn't go all the way to the right. So I'd look to the right and I'd see all kinds of crazy doubling, and I'd look to the left and things would be okay. So I just looked to the left for a while, and I was doing pretty good. Made it through. I did see a doctor, and they did all kinds of blood tests. Did a brain scan. Brain scan came up clear. Blood test came up pretty good. I had a low white blood count, but other than that, I was doing pretty good. And at that point, you know, there was some mention, well, you know, MS is one of the things it could be. It could be lupus, and it could be Lyme disease, and all these things. So anyway, that got better after a couple months, and I just kind of went on my way. And it was actually a couple years until I started having some pretty pronounced numbness and tingling in my legs, usually my right leg, right foot, and then also this crazy thing of numbness and tingling, and then also hypersensitivity. So like if I walked on carpet, it was like walking on a bed of nails or glass shards or something. So really, really sensitive, also numb, and then also like crazy cold, hot sensation. So it would feel like if I touched a cold wood floor with my right leg, it would just feel like I was stepping a block of ice. So sometimes I would go to the doctor for this, and sometimes I would just kind of just let it roll. But I saw a couple neurologists, and actually I saw one neurologist, neuro-ophthalmologist, and she looked at my brain scan. She did multiple brain scans over time and said, absolutely, Spencer, you do not have MS. This is a rheumatic disease of some kind, or it's idiopathic, meaning no known cause. So I just kind of took that like, okay, at least it's not MS. I got no lesions in the brain. I'm good. I just got some other weird thing, and I seem to be doing okay. I just get this numbness and tingling and pain. And so I had various symptoms. If you look at my MS story over those 17 years, I had a couple symptoms divided by many years at the beginning, and then in recent years, 5 years, it would be like more like multiple exacerbations each year, usually in the spring and summertime, as is common with a lot of folks. Probably due to vitamin D going down and heat going up and whatnot, and activity for me going up a lot in the summertime. This past year I had some more numbness and tingling in my legs, different sides of the legs, and I went to see a specialist down in St. Louis at an MS clinic, and it did not take her long to figure out that I had MS. She did a spinal tap, which for me was really, really difficult, like crazy difficult. And I'm not going to say a whole lot about that. Some people have a good experience with spinal tap, and for me the lumbar puncture was rough. In the end, I was glad I did it. I found from that it was looking pretty positive. You know, I had multiple bands and whatnot. and the blood-brain barrier had been breached. So there's blood in my spinal fluid. And then she went ahead and did a scan, CT scan, No, MRI of my spine, and the spine showed just a ton of lesions. So it turns out that I've got MS pretty active on my spinal cord. Obviously in the head too, since I've had eye problems. Since then I've had 2 bouts of optic neuritis, which is, you know, like loss of color vision and all kinds of cloudy, messed up stuff. And then also eye pain. I had one in the right eye, one in the left eye. So I've had some eye stuff, but otherwise my mobility is really good. I've been posting these videos about staying strong with MS, just this idea of just how much I feel really vital. I feel like a vital, healthy person most of the time. And I've just been trying to kind of convey that in those videos. But overall, yeah, symptoms have gotten a little bit rougher. I went to see another specialist up in Chicago for a second opinion at University of Chicago. And he said some different things in comparison to the first doc that I saw, the first MS specialist. But you know, they both confirmed I got MS, but they were both very insistent that I needed to get on a drug regimen. Like, you got to do this. You're nuts. If you don't do this, you're going to be pissing your pants, blind, in a wheelchair very soon. I haven't done that. I was recommended by the first doctor to go on Copaxone. By the second doctor to go on Tysabri. Turns out I've got a high JC virus level, so Tysabri would probably wipe me out. You know, if you got the high JC, you're likely to get that crazy brain infection. And I'm not really into brain infections, so I have not gone on Tysabri or Copaxone or any of the other drugs. I'm actually seeing a third neurologist now here in my town, and he's also just very insistent you got to go on the drugs. I haven't done that, and I'll just say a few things about that. It's kind of the end of my story so far. I've talked to a few people who've been on the drugs, been on different drugs or the same drug for a while, and I've talked to some people who've not. I talked with a gal, a family friend in California, Sharon, and she's had MS for 40 years, so twice as long as I have, and she's not on the drugs, and she's doing pretty well. She's a swank diet person. I know a lot of people are on the Walls diet. There are a lot of folks with MS, I think, I've seen, who are kind of treating it or attacking MS with deliberate forms of diet, exercise, rest, low stress, activity, and exposure to heat and cold and that kind of thing. So I'm trying to sort of think about the way that I've had MS for 17 years. And I'm actually doing pretty well. I think in part because I'm an active person, maybe I'm just lucky, but I've been an active person, I've been a vegetarian that whole time. And I have led a life without a whole lot of crazy stress and that kind of thing. But I tend to overdo it physically. I've kind of given myself a year since my actual diagnosis. I've kind of given myself a year to say, I want to get to know myself with MS. I want to figure out my body and just my healthfulness and how it goes this next year. If I know that I have MS, I've had MS for 17 freaking years and I haven't known it. Now I know it, and I want to see what that's like before I start taking some serious drugs. I haven't seen any MS drugs that look that great. They all have, you know, like not great statistics of how well they work. You know, for some people they seem to be pretty effective, but for a lot of people I see and hear a lot of stories of people kind of suffering on the medications and bumping from one to the next. Tysabri's out for me because of my JC load, and the other drugs just don't look great. So anyway, I'm not on the drugs right now, and I'm actually feeling pretty well. I'm exercising every day. I walk at least an hour and a half a day, and I do other bodyweight exercises. And I've been trying to move towards what I think is kind of a little bit more healthful living, more of a whole foods diet, more rest. A little bit more sun exposure. I've been getting more vitamin D through supplements in the winter time, and then through sun exposure I hope this summer. And try to take it easy a bit more than I normally do, and watch my exposure to the heat and the cold, actually, because both of those can kind of trigger at least exacerbations or those pseudo exacerbations. I get those a lot in my legs. I'll have a pseudo exacerbation just from getting hot, where my leg will go numb and it'll come back to normal later in the day. So anyway, that's my MS story. I really appreciate these MS stories out there on the web. They've been really cool, I think, and I've learned a lot from them, so that's what I have to share.